Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc Podcast, America's #1 podcast for new real estate investors, where we know without a doubt that the most proven path to financial freedom is finding discounted properties. All right. I am your host, Brent Daniels, Mr. TTP, Mr. Talk to People. And I am telling you this, if I can do it, then so can you. So let's get started. This is exciting because there is a lot of talk and a lot of opinions on whether or not you can be successful in the hottest markets in the country. And the conversation, the interview that I'm going to have today on the podcast, I think is going to shake up what you're thinking about going into some of these bigger markets and really making an impact. But it comes with a caution warning. All right. You need to have extremely thick skin. You need to be really, really, really focused. And you need to be able to get through the time where things are a little bit rough to get to that really beautiful, really productive spot in your business. It is my pleasure to bring from San Diego, California, Marcelo Valdez to the Wholesaling Inc podcast. Say hello, Marcelo.
Hello. Brent, how you doing?
This is a long time coming, brother. I mean, you and I have had a relationship for years. I have seen the evolution of your business. I have seen some of the successes that you've had putting together really big deals and some of the, hey, is this going to work in this market? Should I think about going somewhere else? I mean, all of these things, real natural things that you and I have had a conversation about, but you stuck it out. And now, just for everybody to know, Marcelo has already made more this year in the first 4 months of this year than he made in the entire all of last year. He is off and running. He is on a rocket ship right now. Marcelo, how do you do business in these, really, really, really aggressive markets like San Diego?
Yeah, I think, like you said, thick skin is a big part of it. And just, it becomes really cliche, but every day hammering it out, consistency, like you hear about. I know I went to school, there was a lacrosse team, and I really liked, they had some cool sayings on their shirts, but I liked one of them. It said, Navy lacks, and then on the back it said, consistency is the key. So I think that's a lot of it, like you guys talk about, you hear it all the time. And again, it's cliche, but sure, it's doing that and just, being willing to grind through some tough times. And it is a really tough market. The bad news is, you're not going to do, 100 deals in a year. That's just not going to happen in this market. But when you do them, if you do it right, you're going to have, really solid paydays. So it comes, which do you want, go out and get the bigger deals or, a bunch of smaller deals. And I've just decided I'm going to, as they say, grow where I've been planted. So I'm going to do San Diego. I'm going to learn how to make the market work. And, we might only do, when we're really going crazy, 2 or 3 deals a month, but, at $50,000 a deal or whatever, then, you do well.
Yeah. And it's not just, this year it's $70,000 a deal is your average, right?
Yeah. So there was a couple of deals that blew it out on the one extreme. And then I actually had one deal was a lot smaller. I expect that we'll probably end up trending more towards that 50,000 number as volume goes on during the year.
Sure.
But yeah, so far, just because of a couple of big numbers, and again, it's small volume, but it ends up, making a real impact.
Well, listen, I like small volume. Marcelo, you know as well as I do, and because we've had this conversation so many times over the years, but it's what you're netting on these deals and how much is it costing per deal and how do you bring down that cost so that you can keep more of that spread and how do you do it so that it's consistent. And with our business here in Phoenix, with my business here in Phoenix, we're averaging $42,000 a deal this year, right? But we're only doing we're doing one a week. You know what I mean? It's not like we're doing, when people go, well, how many deals? How do you do 10 deals a month? And I'm like, I don't care about 10 deals a month. I care about what is the bottom line income that I'm getting from this business. That's what I'm looking at. So you don't need a huge team. And we're going to go into your team here, Marcel. You don't need a huge team. You don't need a ton of overhead. You don't need to have this elaborate kind of a business that has a lot of slippage when it comes to costs. You can run this really efficiently. So tell us about your business, because what is it? 3 people, 4 people? What do you got?
Well, it's myself and my wife here in San Diego. So far, still, I was actually last year going to hire an acquisitions manager, and then COVID hit. And, you know, the beginning of the year, whatever it was, around February, we were doing well, it seemed like. And then, of course, you know, the shutdowns came, and the following 6 months were really tough. And I said, forget about that. You know, for one thing, I run a home office. I'm not going to have another person come into my house or anything like that. I was going to get an office away, and, you know, anyway, that all blew up. So I said, you know, I'm just going to tighten my belt. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to continue being an acquisition manager. And I'm even doing it so far into this year. I have phone prospectors. We have 3, and one of them I've converted into, she's being a lead manager now. Because now I've gathered, you know, I've been doing this for long enough now. We have about 500 leads in our database. Yeah. Even a whole chunk that I kind of set aside for maybe realtor referrals in the future. I was like, holy cow, you know, prices have gone up so much. Even people that were making, you know, whatever was crazy a year ago is completely a great deal now. So we're using that as well, going back through that. And yeah, and then there's my wife and myself here, and she does, you know, over COVID, we were doing both. We were like, in the military, they call it hot racking, where one person sleeps in a bunk and then the other person gets out. You know, we were down to 1 car, and I was, you know, driving in the mornings, and she was driving in the afternoon, and we were doing like 6, 7, 8 hours a day of driving for dollars. So she still's doing driving for dollars, and works our disposition side. So yeah, it's a small team, really good group of prospectors and ourselves. And, you know, we're going to continue. We've added 1 prospector. I'm going to add another. Everything very logical, very methodical, not going to go crazy, just going to keep, you know, leading with revenue and adding on to our team throughout the year, and adding on to our marketing spend little by little, but in a very manageable way, you know. Volume, you know, towards the beginning of the year, I had 3 open escrows, and I was just, life was a little bit crazy. I wasn't used to it. You know, it sounds like a lot, but for me, I've never had more than 2 open at any time. So 3 open escrows, I was going nuts, you know, so.
Incredible. So what is it, Marcel? You know, people shy away or stay away from these bigger markets. Is it because there's bigger companies that can outspend you and there's a ton of marketing? Is it just the overall property owners understand, you know, that they can just ask whatever they want for the properties? Is it competition from people that are out there door knocking or calling in the market? Like, what is it that makes it kind of a brawl to get deals in San Diego?
I think it's all of it. You know, I recently sent out postcards, and holy cow, I'm actually looking for my own house. So I sent it out to a couple of zip codes where I'm looking, because I hadn't gotten enough, you know, from my prospecting. Sure. And the amount of people that you just get, you know, calling you back and, you know, cursing you out, and the comments are, you know, I get 5 of these a week, you know, what is it about you people? And so, yeah, there's a lot of competition out there. You're not going to do as much volume. You're just not. And, you know, I've gone 2 whole months without doing a deal. Right. And you get to week 8 and.
Yeah, we talked then.
You know, there's got to be I think there's only a certain kind of personality that can go that long without income. You know, you have to be able to ride out those moments, and it can be stressful for sure. And
I'm glad that you rode those out. I remember having that conversation. I was driving in the neighborhood, and we talked. I pulled over and we talked for a good half hour about it. and just cleaning up the process a little bit, making sure that your leads were coming in, making sure everything was really squeezed. And then finally, boom, that big one hit. Like, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, you were able to kind of outlast it, and then it kept going and building and building. And now you're off to the best year of your business. So, I mean, that's phenomenal. You've got 430,000 closed already. You've got things cooking. You got 500 leads in your pipeline. I mean, incredible. So how did you, let's crack open this egg and see, and find out more about you and your story. Why did you get into real estate investing? Why did you get into wholesaling?
So I've always been into fascinated by real estate. I'm an engineering degree by background. I love building. I even went out and got my contractor's license, which is a whole other story. But I built some big, $4 or $5 million homes in La Jolla, and that is like 10 times more stressful than the real estate investing. So I got out of that quick. But I had worked many years at a very large corporation here in San Diego. Didn't want to travel anymore the way I was traveling. I earned over 3 million miles, and it was great while it happened. But, my daughter was born, and I said, I'm kind of done with this. So I already had properties. I'd already been doing some stuff. I had some investments. So I said, hey, I'm going to do this full time. And of course, 6-7 years ago or whatever, it was easier to do. And as time went on, I was like, I'm going to have to go off market to find properties, because I could see the way things were going. But I hadn't heard of wholesaling. And one day I heard, Todd Toback, Tom Kroll, that podcast. And I was like, what is this stuff? So learned more and more about it and kind of eased my way into it. I wish I had not just eased my way into it and just, gone a whole hog. But anyway, I did do that. And so now I don't consider myself a wholesaler. I consider myself very much a real estate investor. But, some things are going to be assigned. Other things we'll decide to purchase and fix and flip. And of course, the goal, as you always talk about, is to buy and hold. I have several properties here in San Diego, and I do want to buy more. But, hey, they're expensive right now. And you got to be creative. You got to find, owner financing, seller financing, whatever. All of those kinds of, you just have to be on a real A game in this market. And it took me a while. It took me, I'm in my third year now of, 2019 was almost a full year. I'd say it was about 9 months. But I joined TTP, and I spent, like you say, do the 1,000 conversations. And I spent 3 months just calling and almost nothing. And one day I got a voicemail, but the name matched the name on Mojo. So I went ahead and left a voicemail, and the lady called me back and said, oh my God, I can't believe, that I'm selling. How did you know? Oh, well, so to make a long story short, we finally did get that deal done. She'd hired an agent. And I thought, oh no, an agent. But I worked through him. They hadn't listed it yet. And it was a $50,000 deal.
Awesome.
So, after that, as you say, it's kind of off to the races, and it was up and down for a while, even still, they weren't coming every week or even every month, but they kept coming, and we stayed tough through it all. And, now, as you say, now we have a much more predictable business. Now I know what my numbers are. Now I know what an actual real seller sounds like, and somebody who's, a tire kicker or whatever. So, but it takes a while to get there, it definitely does.
Yeah. And you know what, and I think that you're going to really see, and I'm sure that you're already doing it, and I think that you touched on it earlier, but going back into your database in any of these markets that are experiencing a high explosive appreciation right now, going back into your old leads, your dead leads, the ones that they wanted too much, or they wanted Zillow price at the time, or whatever else. Woo, we're doing a lot of those deals. You know what I mean? It's exciting. You go back in and you're refreshing them, and these are free. And now all of a sudden, like the I mean, you're just netting so much because you've already paid for these years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago. Now, you know, some of these are getting resurrected, and it is just beautiful. It is just a wonderful way to get some extra deals. So anybody out there that's been doing it for a little while in these high appreciation markets, you need to go in and aggressively attack those dead leads and see what happens there, because we're just, you know, I had the best month ever last month, and it was because of dead leads. It was because somebody wanted a retail value from 3 years ago, and now it's like so much different. We were able to give them what they wanted, and it really worked out. So, Marcelo, talk to me about, because you do a lot. You touched on driving for dollars, right? So is that the only thing you go after? What else do you think is, if somebody's living in a city like Seattle, Chicago, Austin, Miami, New York, some of these other, you know, big time cities, where should they be targeting so that they're not wasting their time? Because it's much different than most markets.
Yeah, I'm going to actually throw something in a little different maybe than some people have heard, is I would actually look much more towards opportunities for value add, because that's where you can get the big numbers from. So that is to say,
break down, because you're a contractor, like break this. What does a value add mean to like a 10-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, basically any property where you can either add square footage or add units. So that's where I get, you know, folks who are, you know, myself, I'm looking. So for my own house, I have a very specific criteria, and I want to be able to put an income producing unit on my own property. And so you can do that here in California. And, you know, there's a lot of other, these major markets, you know, they're just desperate. I don't like to use the word desperate, but, you know, a lot of these markets are just desperate to get, you know, additional units and additional housing. So if you can find a way to meet that need, and you can have to find a different buyer pool too, right? Yeah. So you got to do a little extra work, but there are people out there that are going to pay more money for properties where you can add value like that. Again, either adding square footage, you know, to your 2-bedroom, 1-bath, which, you know, people typically want at least a 3-2, or even more importantly, where you can find some way to put extra units on the property.
I love it. And with these properties, so how do you discover if that's an opportunity? Are you looking for bigger lots with smaller properties on it? Are you just looking in specific areas that you see that it's already happening, that people are starting to do that and getting ridiculous prices for it? Like, how do you know if it's a value add potential?
Yeah, I'm actually looking more in what I call the Metro San Diego. So San Diego, there's San Diego County. Yep. There's different parts of it. And certainly we've driven, you know, done driving for dollars. And I would also say, you know, that's an important one too. But I'm right now focusing a lot on Metro San Diego, which is really, you know, it's super expensive. This is not a cheap area. But, you know, you can sell something out that sells for $700, $800, $900, $1,000 a square foot. Yep. I mean, you know, and construction is $200 a square foot, or, you know, rehab is, you know, $90 a square foot. Mm-hmm. You know, it just makes a lot of sense for a lot of buyers, both anybody you might be wholesaling to, but end user buyers as well. So yeah, I would say that's one for people to look for. But again, not as easy. It's some, you got to learn. You got to have to kind of get up a learning curve and really, really know your market.
I love it, because I mean, listen, if you want to do a fix and flip in San Diego, great. But you know, you're getting these properties at basically retail value or a little bit less. The real move is you want to make the real money. You want to make the 6 figures in those markets. You got to add value. It costs you $200 to do it. Yeah, you got to go through permitting. Yeah, it's going to take you 6 to 9 months. But on the flip side, you're selling that thing for what, $7, $8, $1,000 a square foot? I mean, that's bananas. Yeah, it is absolutely. I remember you showing me a property that I looked at, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is the deal of the century. It was right by the water. It was a teeny house on a teeny lot. I don't know how much you made on it, but I was like, I need to buy this from Marcelo. I wanted to buy it. Like, that's how great it was.
I wanted to buy it. I wish I had, you know, because it was, yeah, that was one I actually called you on. I was like, should I push this out to more buyers? Because I already had one buyer who I think it was like 113,000 on it.
Yep.
And the funny thing is that guy closed on it and he immediately put it on MLS. He just like cleaned it up, put it on MLS, and he made another $100,000.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I mean, location, right? Yeah. That was incredible. That was a great deal, and you got it done, and it was good.
Yeah.
But now you're in a position where you could take those things down and buy those and do something cool with it, which is really, really, really cool. But when you're driving, okay, so let's get back to where to target, because I know that you've done some really interesting things with vacant lots as well. And I think a lot of people sleep on vacant lots because they don't really understand the economics behind it. They don't know how to look at the value of these things. But you're literally like, you're just locking these things up, putting it out there, and it's working.
Yeah, I haven't done as much recently, only because in this particular market, people have gotten so savvy. I've made money, where I've purchased a house and it had like an adjacent lot, but it was all under one assessor's parcel number. And I just went to the county and got a separate assessor's parcel number for the separate lot and sold it, know. But nowadays you can't get away with any of that kind of stuff. Everybody know, they're like, oh, my lot is, you can build so many units on it and blah, blah, blah. So it's a little harder now. We still get them, but it's a lot tighter. It's, I think in maybe more emerging markets now, that might be a good play. And you can still do it. I just have not focused as much as I was, say, a year and a half ago, mainly because the volume, again, there's just a limited amount of lots. So, I have so many hours in a day, but it's worth doing. But in a really hot market like this, it's going to be like the dessert on top. You're going to get one or two of them a year, maybe. You're not going to do a lot of them.
How aggressive are you going after multifamily in San Diego?
I go after it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because holy cow.
It's a tough one too. Again, there's ways to add value. In other words, if you have we had one that we lost out on, and some of the folks that I'd reached out to called me back later and said, "Oh, is that available?" And I said, "No, it actually fell through. It was one deal that didn't work out for me. The thing is, it was a multifamily, but they had more space to build onto.
Yeah.
So and I kept telling people, look, you can build on here. You can add 2 more units. It was a total of was 2 triplexes together, the lots. And I said, you can add more on here, and people just weren't seeing it. And then like 90 days later, they're like, oh my God, is that deal still available? And I was like, nope, nope, you blew it. You blew it. But now people are a lot more savvy to that now. And so, it just seems like everything happens so fast in this market. Everything is just moving so fast. And if you can find that, then that's another play. But again, even with multifamily, you kind of got to look for value add on top of just the fact that it's an income producing property.
And let me ask you, so are you doing driving for dollars because the lists, if you can pull a list on a computer, it's been pretty beat up, right?
Yes.
I mean, these people have gotten mail since like 1953. You know what I mean? Like people have been going after these properties since, they were discovered. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, people have literally like roomfuls of direct mail. They have just a ton. I mean, I'm sure radio and TV ads. I'm sure that there's, Zillow going after these, like all these iBuyers, everybody's going after these properties. So if you can buy a list with just, just clicking on it and filtering it through something like PropStream, then, there's going to be a lot of people going after that. So you're driving out there, you using an app for it?
Deal Machine. Yeah. I'm using
Deal Machine. Got it. Okay, good. And guys, if you guys are driving for dollars, Deal Machine is like it does all the work for you. Make sure you use the coupon code TTP. It is the biggest discount for the Rhino tribe that they give. So use that TTP discount code for Deal Machine, but it does all the work for you. You can check that out. And let's break down a deal. Let's do this, Marcelo. Let's break down this deal. I want that big one. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that.
I was going to add one other thing that I've learned through all of this is is the follow-up. And you hear that a lot. But this year, I mean, the longest one so far is we're in escrow on a deal that we first contacted her in 2018. It's about 2.5 years ago when I was first starting. Yeah, so that's another thing, especially again in this market, is I find that it takes a ton of follow-up.
That's awesome.
So you got to be able to survive long enough to get enough in the pipeline so that you can pull those deals 9 months, 12 months, 18 months later. You got to be able to survive to get there.
Yep, that's huge. And everybody really take that. You got to be able to survive long enough for the timeline of these leads to match up with you and your business. And then it all starts coming together. All the ingredients are together, and you start really putting together, as Marcelo is showing us, a extremely productive year, extremely profitable year. So let's break down that big deal. I'm not going to give any hints as to how big it was, but let's talk about it.
Okay. This was a lead from Driving for Dollars, actually in a really, really nice neighborhood, one that I would love to find a place in myself.
Yeah.
And I called the gentleman, and when I first spoke to him, he had another thing that he was working on, selling a property, and he's 83, I believe now. So he was selling a property out in the, I think, Palm Springs area. He said, not this year because of taxes, but, stay in touch. So again, follow up. So I followed up and followed up and followed up and followed up. And he'd been using it basically as a storage facility. It was a 550 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bath house. And so when I finally got in there, I mean, literally you couldn't walk anywhere. It wasn't so much that he was a hoarder. It's that he literally used it for storage.
Yeah.
And so, he finally came around after about 6 months, said, okay, now I'm good. At the beginning of the year, come meet me. So I met with him. And, it wasn't much of a process. Sometimes they're easy. Sometimes it takes a lot of negotiating. We finally reached an agreement on a price. It was just a little over $300,000. And I think it was actually $300,890. So he agreed. We, virtually shook hands, signed the deal. And it was very straight. I was actually I knew that it was a good deal, but I didn't know how good. So because it was too out of whack, I actually went to my private money lender and I said, actually it's a hard money lender. And I said, hey, I want to actually take this one down because I know it's a good deal. And it was 1 bedroom, 1 bath again. It was on a 1,000 square foot lot, no off-street parking, no garage. So it's kind of, it's insane how small it was. And he said, we don't even lend on something like that because it's a big X factor. We can't even find comps. So I talked to my wife and I said, well, we can buy this and rehab it. And she said, you know what? Well, let's put it out to our buyers and see what happens. So she's always right? The wife is always right. So we did that. And I was kind of, to say the least, I was shocked. So people just kept bidding it up. I think I put it out at $389. And to get to the end of the story, the highest bid was $454,000.
Ooh.
Yeah.
454,000. So 100 and give or take some change here, but over 150,000 that you made on that deal.
Yeah, 154,000.
Hold on a second here, Marcelo. Come on.
Finally get the bell.
That is awesome. And did you get that from calling him, or was it a text?
We called him. Yeah, we called him. It was one of my prospectors, and it's just a general, there's no indication of like it was a really, hot deal or anything like that. He just said, hey, I'm thinking of selling, but not until next year. So, he said, stay in touch. And so we did. And I knew it was from my Driving for Dollars list. So I knew it was a great neighborhood, an amazing neighborhood. Knew the property needed a lot of work. So, we just stayed in touch.
Awesome. One call, serious follow-up, $154,000, just under 153 and some change. Absolutely incredible. That's life-changing. That's life-changing for, anybody. That is just absolutely incredible. When you do a deal like that, Marcelo, are you like, oh, now I got to do a $200,000 deal?
Yeah, kind of. Each time I do a larger deal, I set the bar a little higher, right? I'm like, okay, now I gotta figure out how to beat that one. But then I also, the other thing I did was I called up my accountant, my CPA, and was like, I think I need to set some money aside.
Yeah.
Good problem to have, right?
Yep.
But yeah, you definitely, it definitely does mentally, set you for the next one. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Give some advice, Marcelo, for anybody that is starting out, big market, little market, doesn't matter. Give them some advice on staying in the saddle, staying connected to your goals. And, maybe they're in a rut. Maybe they haven't had the success that they expected in their first week or month or 3 months or whatever it is. Give them some advice on how to get through that.
I think being realistic in the beginning is super important. And, really setting yourself up and saying, some people get them really, get a deal really quickly, but to set a really realistic goal of 90 days, 120 days or more, and just saying, I'm going to stick with this until, some kind of time far off in the future. Don't think it's going to happen quickly, but then stay with it every single day, whatever it's an hour a day or 2 hours or whatever it is.
Love it.
Yeah.
Perfect advice. How do people get a hold of you? How can they reach out if they just want to give you a high five, tell you congrats, or maybe they want to work with you? Maybe they got some deals that they need help selling in San Diego. How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I actually hadn't thought of that question.
Do you have an email?
Just call me. Call me on my cell phone. Text me.
Are you going to give it out?
Yeah, I don't expect a flood of phone calls.
Okay, go for it. What's your number?
Yeah, 858-204-1337.
One more time.
858-204-1337.
Oh, okay, Marcelo, you're opening it up, but that's great. Yeah, you guys, if you are in the area, you'd like to squat up and connect with Marcelo, make sure that you reach out to him. I'm just thrilled. We've talked for a long time, and you having this kind of success this fast, I'm just pumped, man. I'm so excited to cheerlead you and see what the next 7 months turns out, or 8 months really turns out in your business. You better push it over 7 figures. If you take your foot off the gas, I'm going to be pissed. I know you will. Your wife will. I know.
No. We're definitely not doing that. And I also want to, say a thanks to you and appreciation, because like I said, there are a couple of times where there's, am I doing the right thing here? And it's really cool to be able to pick up the phone and call you, and you're like, no, you're doing good. Keep at it. Tweak this. Do a little bit of that. Just general. Not only of course the TTP course, but the cheerleading I appreciate, because that definitely helped during some times of, I guess I'll call it, doubt, right, and self-doubt. So appreciate it, man.
You got it. You are on a rocket ship. It's exciting to watch it. So keep me posted on that. And anybody out there that is interested in joining the most proactive group in real estate investing, it is the TTP family. It is the TTP program. Go to wholesalinginc.com/TTP. That's wholesalinginc.com/TTP. Check out what it's all about. Check out the testimonials. If it feels good in your gut, sign up for a strategy call. And I look forward to working with you personally. But that is it. Marcelo, thank you so much for being on here. What an incredible inspiration, especially in a tough, difficult market like San Diego. Just gave us an incredible blueprint of anybody that's in those bigger markets. If they want to stay homegrown, there is your blueprint. Get after it. And that's it. As I sign off, I always encourage you to talk to people. Till next time, guys. Love you. See you.